our next session is presented by Aleksandra Vojinovikj and Kamashi Sharma Pokhrel from Kaplan Business School. So please join me in welcoming them both as they explore how Gen AI classroom activities can help empower students to boost their confidence. Over to you both.
Thank you so much. And Casey, a special thank you to you for pronouncing my last name correctly. I don't think I've had that since I came to Australia.
Look, I'll tell you something. I actually asked ChatGPT exactly how to do it, and I asked it to play it. So
there we go.
go.
We have the winning formula, how to use generative AI. I'm really honored. All right. Thanks everyone. Thank you for having us today. My colleague Kamashi is already sharing the slides. So I'll do a brief introduction of both of us, and then we'll do parts of the presentation from me and from her. We will be talking about, sorry, that's an additional thing that got in the way. There we go. We will be talking about ways to empower students in the sense of allowing them to develop some more confidence in the classroom. And the way that we're going to do it is linking that to some of the theories around confidence and self-efficacy and why that is important. And then moving to some practical things in terms of providing examples of how we try to do it in our own practice, in our own teaching practice. And given that we both teach at KBS, at Kaplan Business School, we do teach different subjects, but our teaching philosophy is very similar. So that's how we became very compatible to co-present in this research. As you can see, well, there's a bit of a slide presenting about our teaching philosophy, but in essence, we are really trying to empower our students, and that's something that we both are very passionate about, and not just within the classroom. We are both international students, so we came to Australia both as international students, and I think the personal connection to having gone through that experience is understanding how important it is to feel empowered within the classroom, because students who come to Australia as international students often take that confidence from the classroom and bring it to their workplace and to their overall engagement in Australia and any part of their lives. So this is why we're both very passionate about it. We try to help them develop both academic and professional skills. And in order for that to happen, we believe that it's important to create some safe and inclusive learning environments within the classrooms, especially in those moments when they feel very vulnerable. And this is usually that time when students are very early on at their academic journey, or feel like they're lacking some skills, so they don't feel very confident about themselves. So that element of vulnerability is quite essential. We are trying to develop this and trying to develop certain skill set within any subject that we teach, including things like critical thinking and creativity and collaborative problem solving. It's just a matter of allowing their growth through all the cognitive levels. Kamashi, did you want to present yourself a little bit and tell the audience a little bit about yourself before I move on?
That's all great, Alex. Thank you so much. Alex has already covered about our passion, who we are, and what we do. That's it. And again, thank you so much for the opportunity. Over to you, Alex.
Thank you, Kamashi. By the way, we are both currently teaching Bachelor of Business and MBA subjects, but not a lot of people at KBS knows that actually my first teaching experience was around 20 years ago with my bachelor's degree in linguistics. So I used to be a language teacher. And I think having that experience really helps me understand the topics discussed here. All right, so let's go through what we would call an introduction. And I believe everyone would be familiar with these statements, which is why we use them as an introduction. No matter which level or which subject we're teaching, we often hear students repeatedly coming up with these excuses or these statements as to why they are not engaging in classroom activities. It's usually, I don't know how to explain this, or I might be wrong about what I'm sharing. I'm insecure about what I'm sharing. I don't know how to put this in words. I don't know how to express my ideas, or my English is not really good, or basically some of them are introverted, so they are reluctant to engage. And while these are all very valid excuses, we understand that underneath this, there is something much deeper, and it's usually the lack of self-efficacy and the lack of self-confidence. So in order to unpack that, we went into researching, as academics do, into the theories of what lies underneath the confidence. And especially in this context of international students, we realized that the international students are very much affected by their language proficiency. So often the fact that they may not have the English level proficiency, or it's limited given the fact that it's a second language, they feel that their confidence is dropping because their proficiency level is basically reducing their self-efficacy, and it reflects into academic tasks as well. And sometimes they feel less confidence even when they do know the answers of a subject matter question, because of the fact that they don't feel confident in their language and in expressing and articulating their ideas in a way that they would in their mother language. So moving on to what we explored further, we've established that there are two main theories that are closely related to this. So we explored the phenomena from the prism of self-efficacy theory and self-determination theory, which is what we will be presenting about. So the first one, self-efficacy. If you are a lecturer or engaged in English as a second language teacher, and you're not familiar with self-efficacy, I would say you probably know many aspects of it intuitively without actually digging into the actual theory. Because I remember from my previous experience as a language teacher 20 years ago, I didn't know about self-efficacy as a theory, but I did intuitively know that this is a major issue. So to put that into academic words, what we're talking about is really a construct that focuses on the individual's evaluation of their capacity to do something successful in a given situation. And that something successful in our classroom is really speaking out, giving out the answers, or getting included into an activity that is related to the subject that students are learning about, but their evaluation of their language skills is getting in the way. So self-efficacy, without getting into too much details of all of the aspects of the theory, does have a couple of elements, but the one that we predominantly want to focus on in this presentation is performance outcomes. Because what we're trying to do is get them to experience performance outcomes, which is basically that experience when you start creating something, you start creating an outcome for yourself, and then the next time you think, oh, well, I was successful back then, I did this, so I can do it again. And I think this is really what's lacking with international students at the beginning of their journey, because they're new at a country and they haven't had the opportunity to develop those performance outcomes where they performed well, and then they can tap into those experiences to feel more empowered. So this is why we are looking into performance outcomes as a way to influence their ability to perform a given task in a more optimistic, in a more effective way. All right, the next one is the self-determination theory. And again, this is a very broad theory, which we will not cover in its entirety. But in essence, the self-determination theory talks about motivation in large portion of how human needs are impacting their individual's motivation, and that relates to students as well. And one of those, so there's just one particular part of this theory that relates to the human needs, is expressing the importance of autonomy as a critical factor that needs satisfaction because it relates to desirable outcomes. Part of these outcomes could be academic engagement, achievement, sense of well-being. So in essence, summarizing the main point of this theory that we are referring to is we want to make sure that students feel that they have enough autonomy in order for them to be motivated to get engaged into the activities and into the classroom discussions in order to have those performance outcomes. So why is this important? We're now basically articulating the problem. And the problem or the challenge that we consistently experience in higher education, and I would assume in language learning, is not the absence of student knowledge and not the absence of student motivation, but essentially the absence of student confidence in mobilizing that knowledge that they have. So language barriers are often an issue because they block their expression. So people say, I don't know how to explain this. They also have fear of judgment, which often gets them to close up and remain silent rather than sharing. And basically the word that the premise that they have is what I'm sharing might be wrong. The low self-efficacy relates to low self-confidence, which is they don't know how to put their ideas into words. And then there's fear about their personality in terms of being introverted. So how do we mitigate this? How do we meet this challenge and reverse its effects? Our proposal with this research is to try and create performance outcomes. As we've established, these are very important, and a strong belief in the capabilities that would come from that performance outcome would help into improving their performance. And then their confidence in executing the task can lead to higher achievement and higher engagement and really success overall in any aspect of their studies and further career. So why confidence matter? We've already covered plenty of this, and I won't go through all of the academic definitions, but in essence, we're looking at a positive emotional impact. We're looking at active participation and classroom engagement, building self-efficacy through performance outcomes, linking that through to academic motivation and achievement. Now, understanding all of this is really the background. What we want to know is how do we actually put this into practice? And this is where AI comes in. So we were experimenting with a couple of activities to try and develop the performance outcomes in a way that it's safe for students. And usually students tend to express their views more confidently when they do have an interaction with ChatGPT or with another generative AI, because they feel like they already have the answers. And it's not an answer that they are trying to articulate, because they're actually reading them from somewhere. So we looked into a bit of a research, what has been conducted in this field, and we've established that AI can essentially foster that supportive learning environment. It can help students nurture their curiosity and excitement and self-efficacy. And it also promotes self-efficacy by personalizing their learning experience, helping them create some structure to their ideas, helping them develop some more positive emotions, which in essence helps them feel more confident. So we are now actually going to give you the examples of what we experimented to do in our classroom. And the first one is an example from a subject that I teach. This is an activity where students are given a scenario. This is a internship subject, so students are given a real-life workplace kind of scenario where they are experiencing an issue with their communication with the manager. And now they're invited to go to a breakout room, discuss and consult ChatGPT or any other generative AI of choice to come up with an idea themselves, and then put that idea into a shared document, which is open access to all of them. The next one is a very similar one. This is giving them a question rather than a scenario, and then allowing them to put in the summary of their discussion and their AI interaction into a couple of post-it notes, again, into a shared collaborative platform. So the goal with these two is really to ensure that they feel confident with what they're trying to come up with. And we'll talk some more about the results, but I'll pass it on to Kamashi to present her own examples of practice.
Okay, thank you, Alex. I would like to share two different examples that I have used in my classroom, and it's just an observation about the students, what they felt. So basically, I would like to begin my class with brainstorming the topic that we're going to discuss on that specific week. So I'm here to present one of the topic that we usually share about the people and culture. Is about the leadership. So the one topic was for a specific week 11 was ethics and why ethics matters for the leader. And I began with a question like, tell me what is ethics and what is your understanding? And they tried to explain before and they stop in between. I don't know how to explain the problems that we shared before. So what I asked them to do is, okay, go ahead and use the generative AI to understand better what is ethics and why it is important, like a kind of activity. And they did it. They found some kinds of useful terminology and they used it. And I asked them, don't read aloud in a same way what is included in the answer given by the ChatGPT. So they just read for a while and they tell their laptop screen and they were giving the eye contact and sharing the answer. And after that, I also asked, what was your experience before and after using? So some of the outcomes are mentioned here, that they mentioned that we feel very confident that I got the right terminology to explain my ideas, and then that we are having this kind of practice instead of like using or for a self-efficacy, instead of them feeling very unengaged from them to like a classroom engagement. That was very helpful. And the second one that I would like to share is with my master, that's postgrad students. It's about governance, ethics, and sustainability subject. The subject itself is a very hard for them to understand. They feel, oh my God, it's a huge terminology. And we do have a weekly worksheets that they need to participate. So what I try to do is to mention them in a same, like for a collaboration and having that kind of confidence to share. So I have created Google Doc where they can weekly, all those weekly sheets are included and they can rename as per their convenient, and they can work together, and their work is presented in the screen so that the other students can get benefited while they are sharing. They can see something, as well as this help them for doing a collaboration, working together, and each and every time if there is a group activity, it helped them to take in charge. Okay, last time you were sharing and this time I would love to share, a kind of leadership role, and that helped them. As well as again, then the second in this side I would love to explain is about to understanding the concept, how we are using AI in terms of like understanding first. If we just say what is circular economy practice in Australia, and we will get AI overview, we get understand from this, and this is the aligned one where they can get much more detailed information which help them to understand the topic and to address their curiosity and explore some different ideas and analyze the information. And also this help student to get themselves, I'm confident enough to do my own research where I can understand first using generative AI, and I can explore the main document to understand the topic. So eventually, I can say that like both using this practice was very helpful for undergrads and master's students. And this was our observation, from my experience. Over to you, Alex.
Thank you. And we are just going to conclude because we're out of time. But the final slide is really about a summary of our teaching observation, which is similar to what Kamashi already mentioned. So linking that to the theater, we noticed that students felt less reluctant to share what they wrote because they've already had the experience of having it written, and they demonstrated more confidence in their ability to articulate their answers. So that kind of boosted the level of participation, and they showed more interest, which aligns ones, both with self-efficacy and self-determination theory. And they did demonstrate a lot more autonomy because they were given a task that they were able to perform autonomously. These are only teachers' observations. We have still no practical evidence because KBS, as you may know, is not a research institution, but we are looking at ways to find some real tangible results and continue this as a research project. So please feel free to ask questions or reach out to us or connect. We have the final slide with our emails and LinkedIn profiles. So please feel free to connect. If anyone is interested in the topic, we're both very passionate and looking forward to develop this even further. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Aleksandra and Kamashi. That was a very interesting presentation. And just being conscious of time, if there are questions, if you could please drop them in the chat, and then